you doing?
Fantastic. You doing all right?
Man, listen, I'm doing. I
You
got them
doing?
brand new puppies, so it's like being a brand new mother 5 times over. And I didn't realize how dependent or spoiled my dogs were until she had them puppies. So
Wow.
yeah, but I'm good. Uh,
That's
you
good.
gonna you gonna tell people who you are, and then I'll tell people who I am, and then we'll tell them.
Sure. So I'm just Antoine, and I'm with Adruilux.com, and I'm excited about being here. And we're going to be talking about family ties today, and so something that's near and dear to my heart. And yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I'm always excited, though. I'm always on 10,000. And by the way, I am Jay, the Healchemist, and I am with Healing Help. That's healing.help is the website. And I am equally as excited as you are, Twan, to be here to talk about some family ties. And, you know, uh, family is a beautiful thing. So let's start there, right?
It
We don't
is.
want people coming for us talking about what y'all got against family. I love my family. I am lucky to have the family that I do. I have a relatively big family. I have 21 first cousins on my mother's side alone.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's just her siblings. Okay. So I'm fortunate. I have 4 children who have, between the two of them, well, I have 4 children and two of which have children. So I've got 5 grands total. So yeah, I'm surrounded. If I just have all 4 of the kids over and they bring their kids, we got 20 people in the house.
Wow.
So,
You got
uh,
it going on.
it's going down always, but I'm blessed. So there's that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually blessed to have my parents still with me,
Yeah.
and I have brothers and sisters, and well, one brother, a couple of sisters, and a couple of steps siblings as well, and so
Okay.
I'm grateful for that, and it's just when we think about family, we want the support of our family mostly, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they can be supportive, and sometimes they can't be, right? Or
Yeah.
they just not supportive. Or I think it's really about the support that we are expecting.
So that's what I have this saying, right? I guess it's like a pet peeve of mine. Like when people say, "Well, I'm trying to help," and I just kind of had to get the epiphany one day that helping is not doing what I feel like is helping, but is doing what somebody else needs in the way of help.
Mhm.
So sometimes we have expectations of our family when we expect them to support us or help us. And I don't mean help always in the sense of give me something, but even with like promoting your business, sharing your website, telling people what it is about what you do, we have an expectation that our family should support us, right? But they sometimes when you tell people, I was just expecting your support, they're like, what you think I've been doing? And I think it's just a mismatch in expectations and in communication. So we tend to sometimes feel like our family members, spouses included, will read our mind and go, here's what you should know what I need, basically.
Right.
Right? I shouldn't have to tell you what I need. That's a problem. Can
Yes.
you hear my dog back in
I
there?
can't hear
What
them.
is wrong with her? She wants me to come downstairs and hold these puppies so she can clean their butts, but grandma need a break.
Right.
I'm sorry, y'all. There's nothing I can do.
Their family as well. So
Listen,
hey,
when I tell you that my children will tell you that they feel like I love her more than more than I love them, which is not true. I just love her as much as I love them. That's my little fur baby. And for those of you who don't know, she just had 5 puppies like 7 days ago. So she's a new mom. She's never done it before. And somehow she has roped me into being her baby daddy.
like you don't support me whether you like it or
And what it is she wants to come up here with me because she likes to be in the midst of me. She literally wants to put her puppies in my bed while she nurses. Absolutely not, ma'am. I'm sorry. You
not.
have
Right.
your own bed, and that's what we're going to do. I'm sorry, I got some stuff down here. So back to what we were saying. I had to state the obvious. Like please excuse the barking. If you do hear it, ain't nothing I can do about it. And we can't record this again.
Right, right. So we just gonna
So
push on forward,
keep it
but
pushing.
they're part of your family, and so one of the things, you were talking about frustration and expectations and stuff like that. Well, which brings about frustration, right? When we have expectations, but they're not met, and a
Right.
lot of times we don't communicate effectively what
Or
we are
at all.
wanting from others and what our expectations are, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a part of dealing with family ties, and sometimes you know they just don't they can't give us what we want, and a lot of things we want we really need to get it from ourselves, right? Be in
Yeah.
love for love ourselves so
Exactly.
that we can receive love from others.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't communicate at all. Sometimes we, like I said, we have this expectation. Well, if you knew me or if you were paying attention to me, then you would know what I need. And I really want us to get away from that. I really want us to learn how to use our words. I want us to learn how to communicate with each other, our family, our children, our spouses. And you would be surprised how many people walk around with hurt feelings under the perception that somebody has either done something to them or has not done something that they feel like that person should have done. So, for example, and this is not an actual scenario, but let's just say, I'm the only girl of two boys, by the way. But let's just say one of my brothers expected me to do something. My mom lives with one of my brothers now, and let's just say he expected me to do something with regard to my mom, and I didn't do it. Well, his feeling may be, well, she should have known that I would have needed help with that. But how would I know if you not communicated to me, hey, I need support with this thing, or hey, on this date or this time, can you help me with XYZ? And sometimes even when we communicate what we need to our family, it doesn't even mean that they can do it, you know?
Exactly.
So that alone can cause situations where we are backbiting, we're talking about each other behind, our backs in the family. And really, it's just venting instead of going to the party or going to the person and say, hey, my feelings were hurt, or I kind of felt a little neglected, or I kind of felt really neglected that you didn't XYZ.
Right.
Oftentimes you'll find out it's that the person had no intention of being neglectful, and it was not a lack of care for you, but sometimes they're going through something and you don't even know it
Right.
because you're focused on what you're going through.
And sometimes it's we create stories in our head, right? And we just know they are this way, and this is why they're operating the way that they're operating, and this is why they didn't do
Right.
what I expected them to do. And so we create a whole story in our head,
Whole
and
scenario.
then our feelings are tied to those stories we created, whether they're
Yeah.
true or not, right? Whether
Right.
they're factual or not. And so we
Right.
just have to learn to step back and learn, like you said, effectively communicate what our needs are.
Yeah.
And then one of those things that I'm practicing is, um, if I communicate my need and they do not, um, excuse me, and they do not meet
I'm having
those
the same
needs,
trouble.
what am I going to do then?
Yeah.
So I need to set some healthy boundaries, right?
Right.
So if they don't do that, then what? And
Let me ask
I
you
read a
this.
quote.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead. I don't want you to forget your quote.
I
Go ahead.
read a quote, and it said something like, if you don't have expectations, you will always be glad or
Like
satisfied.
if you won't be disappointed if you don't have
Yes,
expectations or something like that. I've heard that also. And that's such a thin line, right? Because we all have expectations. There are all things, excuse me, I'm having a little difficulty. There are all things that we expect. But not only setting healthy boundaries, because we talk a lot about setting healthy boundaries, but can we set healthy expectations? Sometimes, like we were saying, the expectation is not realistic, to even expect from someone else. So let me ask you, when you have a situation where you feel like you've communicated your expectation to the other person and they are just not meeting your expectation, whatever relationship, right? Friendship, romantic,
Right.
work relationship, business relationship. What are some healthy ways that you could either address that or deal with that?
Well, what I try to do is try to figure out why am I wanting this from this person,
That's a good
right?
question. That's a
Because
real good.
sometimes I'm coming from an unhealthy place
Yeah.
and having an expectation for somebody to meet a need that I really need to do some internal work on and figure out why. And
Yeah.
so, um, just understanding who I am is a game changer. And
Huge game changer. Yeah.
yes, and so we when we it's the buck stops with us, right? And it starts with
And
us.
starts with us. Right. Exactly.
And so we have to realize that, hey, it's all about me. And I can't control other people, but if I can control me, which I'm responsible for,
Absolutely.
then I can really see where people's capacity is, where their capacity to love, where their capacity to help me or assist me in doing things, because they may not even have that capacity based on how they see things and
Yeah.
their perception and the things that happened to them in the past. And so
Or
being
current.
very, or in the present, that's what you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. In the current, in the present.
Yes. And so just being very aware of who I am and why am I wanting to make this request.
Right. What am I really asking? Right. And I'm sorry, like I got a lot going on right now. Now I got a scope. Who's trying to shoot me? What's really what is this scope thing I got going on? I don't even know where it's coming from. So, I know these things can be distractions. So I figured I'd go ahead and point them out before somebody else is like, why she got that scope on her face? And why them dogs barking in the background? And why she keep moving because I'm standing up. But I feel like there's a lot of meat in what you've just communicated, right? And one of my biggest things is that we need to spend time, less time looking out the window and more time looking in the mirror, right? So if we always start with me, so when we use the term, and I like that you said it's all about me, because we use it in a way that I feel like is geared towards having other people again meet our needs. Do this is all about me. You need to morph, you need to move, you need to rally around what it is I need, right? But the way you said it to me is healthier and it makes a lot of sense, and I want to change it to mean exactly that. It is all about me, not in that you have to come and meet my needs because it's all about me, but it's all about me understanding why I need these things, what I'm really asking for, and why am I expecting it from someone else, right? And I feel like when we are talking about relationships and expectation, it's almost like if you tell someone don't have expectations in your relationships, you're saying don't have standards in your relationship, don't have needs in your, and that's not the same thing. What we're really saying is that every one of us has needs. Some of those needs we hope that other people can help us meet or meet for us, but most of those needs to be met. Most of those needs need to be met by us ourselves. Our happiness is our responsibility, and we don't really get that a lot of times.
Right.
In in family, sometimes dynamic plays a part. Also, some people feel like there's a favorite child, and sometimes there is a favorite child. So, you know, there's sometimes this, and you said something about or something close to it about somebody being, or this is how they are, well, you know how so and so is, or and I like that we will sometimes say, well, you know how they are, but we can't always do it in a way that allows people to misbehave. But we can say it in a way that helps us acknowledge that maybe what we're asking from somebody, they really just don't have the capacity to give. And I'll use myself as an example. I feel like, and My mom has never heard this before, so this will be the first time. Love you dearly, mommy. But I feel like I had an expectation of my mother that in some instances may not have been realistic in the way of me now understanding who she is. And as a result, sometimes I felt unloved
Hmm.
or less loved, right? But once I started to stop looking at her and making her be the mom in my head and start looking at her and recognizing that she may not show love like that, but recognizing the ways in which she does show love made me feel more love because I recognize how much love she was showing in the way that she could. And that's when I tell you that was huge for me, that
Yes.
was huge for me.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that I didn't want a different type of relationship with her. We are very close. We have a relationship, but I don't think that the idea that I had in my head about what I wanted from that relationship was realistic for us, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yes.
Like I said, once I realized how she shows love, her way of communicating love, I was like, oh, my mama loves me. That's how she shows
That's
love,
powerful.
which actually brought us closer together and gave me that feeling that I was looking for in the relationship. So the relationship that I wanted, I got once I recognized how she loved.
Right. And because we have something in our head and we don't know how to communicate that. We don't take time to even think about what's going on in our head, right? And
Mhm.
so
I
we're
do,
not,
unfortunately. I'm in there all the time, but I
yeah,
get
we're
what
not aware, but a lot of people are not aware. They're just responding and reacting,
you're saying.
not really responding, but just reacting to what's going on in them. And
Yeah,
so every time I get upset, it's really a mirror of what's going on in me. Because my goal is to be the same way all the time. And
yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm not going to get angry or upset or disappointed or anything. No, those feelings are going to come because we are people, we're
Right.
humans, right? And we're going to feel things, but it's not going to lead me to a point where I start reacting in a different way. I'm going to be responsive and a responsible
Oh
individual
yeah.
and respond
Yeah.
correctly to what is happening in my environment.
Yeah. That so I like that. It's like, when I tell people that I don't cuss folk out no more, because your friend over here was a professional, honey. I can make a grown man cry. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I have learned that I can decide not to do that. I can decide to handle that differently. You know what I found is a good tool when somebody says something to piss me off, or I know that somebody's being condescending, or they're being rude, or they're being dismissive.
Uh,
Instead of me getting angry, I'll ask them, "Do I talk to you that way?" Or I will say, "When's the last time I spoke to you that way? When's the last time you told me something and I was dismissive? When's the last time you told me something and I was
that's good.
condescending or disrespectful?"
That's very good.
It it has never one time not made somebody stop and at least for a brief second go, you have people that'll gaslight you and be like, "What? I'm not doing anything." And I'll say, "Well, apparently I feel something. So can we talk about how the way you're talking to me is being, is translating on this end and it's not just a me thing?
Wow.
Can we talk
Yeah.
about that?" And I'm not gonna lie to you. You will get some people that will double down and be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you acting like that?" And blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And for me, I'm still on the inside, like, "Ooh, don't do that. The line is right there. I can see the line. I'm not gonna go over it. I'm not gonna go over it. I'm not gonna go over it." I will then tell them, "Well, you know what? I'm really trying to communicate with you in a way that's going to de-escalate the situation. I'm not trying to fight you. I'm not trying to argue with you. You are
Yes.
not my enemy, and I'm not your enemy. So until we can have a conversation in a way that we can communicate what we actually want to say to one another, I'm gonna step away."
Yes. That's very
It's
powerful.
not easy to do.
It's not easy to do.
but
But
it's
it takes practice, it takes practice because
it really
sometimes
does.
you're gonna be able to step away and say, you know what, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna entertain this right now, um, because I'm trying to communicate and it's not working. And
Yeah.
so we step away, and sometimes we just gonna let them have it, right? And then but if we take that time to reflect on, what could I've done differently,
Right.
in that situation. And because that reflection part is so powerful. And I was scared to reflect because I didn't want to see who I really was.
Yeah, you wanted to keep them the bad guy.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
know what?
and I wanted to blame everybody. And
Right. I want to be held
always have good
harmless.
motives, you know?
I'm the good person here. I'm the one
Right.
that's really trying. But you know how many people really feel like that in a relationship where there's conflict? Both sides usually feel that on some level they are trying their best, right? But I want to jump back a little bit because you said something about fear. And I wanted to talk a little bit about part of why we don't really communicate what we need and what we want, uh, is we're afraid. Not only afraid of somebody going, you want that? What's wrong with you? You got, somebody going into what they feel like your imperfections are, or why you want that. Or in the case of my situation with my mom, I would be afraid to say certain things because I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't ever want my mother to think that for some reason she didn't do a good job or I'm disappointed, And so how do you say that? And she's not even the type, you got the type of people that when you say something to them, they're like, oh, what you trying to say? And they will tell you a whole story about something that you did not say.
Right.
Or, if you say something, what term
That
I
was
hate more
me.
than anything? I hate the term you act like. No, I'm not acting like. I'm literally having a conversation with you about the experience that I am having in this situation. I'm not acting like. So what they'll do is if I say, I need your help, and I'm going to use my husband as an example. He doesn't do this, thank God, because I choke him. No, I wouldn't. But like if I said, well, I need a little more help around the house, I hate well, you act like I don't do nothing response. No, I'm just asking for more help. I'm not saying you don't do anything. I'm just saying I need more. So I want us to get away from dogs. That's what I want us to get away from. I want us to get away from dogs. But I want us to get away from taking offense. Because here's the caveat, right? We got this person over here. My needs are not being met. I got all these expectations of you. I need this. You're not meeting my needs. I'm not communicating to you. But I'm over here and I got a tube. You got person over here that's like, oh, they got an attitude, right? But the reason you haven't communicated is because this person over here tends to go, what you mean? I all the stuff I do for you, you act like I don't do nothing. So it's got to be this extreme. So we've got so many different dynamics when it comes to learning how to communicate with our families and with each other. So if
Why are
any
you
of these things, like,
all in my business, all my past? So I'm growing from that
yesterday was
because
the past.
I was totally there. I was just totally there. I would You would say something to me and I would start assuming what that meant
Yeah,
based on how I received it. And it only could mean this,
right.
because I said this and then you said this. So I create a story and then I go off of the story that I created
Yeah.
instead of really being attentive to see what are they really saying and asking that follow-up question. So what did you really mean by that? I'm trying to get a clarity on,
That is
why did
awesome.
you say that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I was
And
going to
so
tell you that I thought that part of that would be to take what the person is saying at face value. Can we just take what they're saying, hear the words that we're saying at face value? And if you feel like there was some funk underneath what that was said, ask for clarification. Don't say, I don't know, I thought I heard a little funk under there. You trying to be slick? You trying to be funny? No, I'm saying, say, okay, I heard you say XYZ, and I kind of feel some type of way about it. Because you could be honest that you're having an
yes,
emotional reaction to what they're saying.
yes.
But I don't want to be wrong in what I'm feeling. can you elaborate? Or what did you mean by that? Or did you mean just that? Right? Because, sometimes we'll say things, but we really saying something inside of something we're saying. So you can ask, hey, did you mean that exactly? Or uh, are you saying something else? Because if you're saying something else, can we talk about that? And can you say that so that I know what you're really feeling? And that's hard.
It is. It takes it's a skill that you have to develop.
Yeah.
And I'm reading a book, or I'm listening to it actually. It's called Crucial Conversations.
I've read that book.
Yes. It's a great book, isn't it?
I agree. Definitely
Yes.
a great book.
And so just learning how to have those conversations, it takes you to be able to step out of your own head and be able to be present in the now and really assess the situation from a mature standpoint and say, okay, what are we going to do with those words that you just said? How
Right.
can we handle that? And if it made me feel some type of way, like you said, acknowledge that, but say, hey, why would you go that route or use those choice of words to describe this situation?
Right. Right.
And because a
And
lot of times people don't want to, they're just talking out of their perspective
all of us are.
all the time, right?
All of
But
us
I
are all the
mean,
time. Yeah.
a lot of times from a point of not, sometimes they just don't, words just flow and communication just falls off, but without really having a background of what the situation really entails.
I
So
understand.
they just acting off of emotions is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, without really
They're
thinking about.
reacting, and instead
Yes.
of responding, they're reacting.
Right.
And so I kind of feel like part of what we will experience anytime we start to learn how to communicate with the intent of understanding. So a lot of times we communicate with the intent of being heard, but if we begin to communicate in a way that helps us understand the other person, it's a really vulnerable place to be in. It puts us on the chopping block, so to speak, because it gives the other person a chance to tell us we're not perfect. No matter how well you think you're doing in a relationship, no matter how much more you're doing than the other person, work relationship, child, parent, parent, child, you know, romantic, business, no
It's
matter how much you feel like you're doing, that's more than the other is doing, especially if you feel like you're doing the most. You don't want to hear from the person who ain't doing the most that you ain't doing the most.
right.
You don't want to hear that you're not perfect, but we have to be willing to hear that we're not perfect. And despite our best efforts, uh, there may still be room for improvement. Likely there is.
And one of the things the book talks about is stepping back and watching your motives, or being aware of your motives.
Mm.
What are you really asking yourself? What am I really attempting to get out of this conversation? What meaning do I really want to portray? Because if it's selfish, then I need to let that go.
Well, and I think there's going to be a little bit selfish to it because there is something that you're trying to get, right? But maybe if you add to that, not only what am I trying to get, but what am I willing to give, right? So if you're thinking in this, I'm going to tell you a story. I
Okay.
told my pastor, uh, shout out to Pastor Burton, Greenville, South Carolina, Water Life Christian Church, one of the realest pastors I know. He told me one time, I told him that I thought that I wanted to be married again. And we won't talk about how many agains there have been. Okay. So he said, can I give you a little bit of advice from a brother, a spiritual brother, a spiritual father talking to his daughter, not a man talking to a woman. And I don't want you to take offense, but I want you to hear what I'm offering. And I said, yeah, of course. He said, you might want to figure out how much work you have to do. And guess what I felt like? What you mean you work? What's wrong with me? in my head, I immediately thought he saw something wrong with me. That's
Defensive, right?
not what he was saying, because he preceded that. Is that no? Preceded. What he said after that was, what I want you to understand is that oftentimes we say we're ready to look, we're ready to be married, right? And this does not have to be on the level of being married, right? I don't want us to harp on the married part. We'll get to where I want you to harp, because it could be literally any relationship, right? But he said a lot of times people want to get married because either a wife is looking for a husband or a husband is looking for a wife. Very rarely are we looking to be a wife, or are we looking to be a husband, right? He said, look to be a wife. And the reason I say that is because you will then understand the responsibility you have in what you're saying you want. Profound.
That is
Profound, right?
that is
And to clarify that, right? Because that's a very broad, vague statement. Even though it hit me in the chest and I got it, he wanted to bring it back. He wanted to granulate it. You know what I mean? He wanted to make it smaller. So he said, what I want you to do is I want you to introduce yourself to people in the church that have been married 15, 20 years, and not married just because don't nobody want to give up the house. Like married because they are happily married. And I want you to befriend them. Go to their house for dinner. Invite them to your house for dinner. Ask questions. Watch how they treat each other. See how they interact, right? Ask him what made him stay. Ask her what made her stay. And if you are willing to make the type of sacrifices that these people have had to make for one another, you might be ready. Can I tell you, I heard some stuff that was deal breakers probably in the first conversation. I was like, oh, hell no.
right.
Not how I said the cat.
Right.
Right? But what it did was it brought that conversation to action items. And so anytime that we're in relationship with someone else and we are saying that we need something or we want something, we really need to understand what it requires of us, what kind of sacrifices we also have to make.
Bring to the table. We got to bring something to the table.
Right? And I hate the term bring something to the table, because that's one of them cliches. What do you bring to the table? Honey, I am the table. Come on now.
No, but what I'm saying is we got to do that personal work.
Right.
I got to be that person. So who I show up, like he said, you got to be that husband, or you got to be that wife, to that spouse. And so are you working on you, that personal work that it has to take to be the best version of who? And I don't even like to say that best version, but just be you.
Yeah.
To be you. But you have to just get to that point where I'm always examining what's going on with me.
With me. Yeah.
What is
I'm
going
always, and even acknowledging that sometimes you are in a space where what's going on with you is not necessarily the best experience for your partner. And we're human, right? We just because we realize that it may not be the best place for our significant other, our business partner, our children, our parents, our siblings to experience, being able to recognize that you're in that place and deciding to do something about it is the challenge for a lot of people.
Yes. It's work. It is a lot of work.
It's ongoing work.
It's ongoing work as well, right?
Yeah.
But when you're committed for growth, you're committed to know who you are. Family ties, it won't even matter in the sense of you'll be able to handle all your family ties.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because you realize who you are, what work you need to continue to do, and then you can have more grace on others, and you can actually become more intuitive and start seeing what they really need.
Right.
And
but you can't be going to tell them, what you need.
No, assisting them and getting there.
Supporting them. Yeah. And extending grace in some instances. You have to extend some grace to allow them to get to the point where you see it.
Because when you're doing that surf work, that's what you realize, hey, I need a lot of grace because I'm something else. I'm a
Right.
bag of Cheetos and some, right? With hot sauce and pickle juice.
I'm just saying, hot Cheetos and Takis. Fingers is red and I cannot get it off me. It's like, I
Right?
don't know if y'all remember that old, that wasn't a TikTok. I want to say that was a Vine. That's showing my age. But yeah, that is that just recognizing that and understanding how to get help. One of the things I say all the time is, people always say, well, truth be told, XYZ, truth be told, blah, blah, blah. And what I've come to realize is that truth can't be told. It has to be realized. And you think about how many times you've seen somebody and you watch the path that they're going down, because either you've been down that path or you saw somebody else going down that path, and you're trying to tell them the truth about where they're headed and about their actions and how it may cost them down the line. And they are like, man, what you talking about? I'm good. No, I got this. I'm straight. I'm straight. I'm straight. I'm straight. But until they realize that the change needs to happen, you can tell them the truth till you're blue in the face. Once they realize the truth, then they will be prompted to take action. They will be prompted to make changes. They will be prompted. It'll be an inside job, just like the job we all have to do is the inside job. So truth can't be told. It has to be realized, as far as I'm concerned. So I will tell you the truth because you can't unhear it, right? But I'm not going to beat you over the head with it. I'm not going to treat you some type of way if you're not taking, quote unquote, my advice,
Well,
and I'm going to support you.
it has to be with love. So when you're
Yeah,
coming from a good space and people sometimes they won't recognize that, right? But if you're consistent and knowing that, hey, I'm coming from a good space, and I just my goal is to love you to and assist you in getting to that best place for you. And so if I'm doing that work, they can see that and
yeah,
they can feel that sincerity, and it just makes it so much easier. But if I'm not willing to do what I'm asking of you, which we see a lot in family ties, right?
right.
Then that's a deal breaker. It's like it's going to erupt into like, what do you mean?
So let me
You
ask
just
you a
did
question.
this. Yes.
When it comes to family ties, have you seen or had the experience of somebody in the family who is just not necessarily, I'll say, the best behaved, right? And because that person has always showed up in the family that way, the family tends to go, well, they're like that. That's just how they are.
Mhm.
And you get to a point where you're like, okay, so if you all decide that the way that they are is okay with you, that's you. But I'm going to remove myself because the way that they are is not okay with me anymore. And now the family feels some type of way about you setting boundaries because they feel like you don't want to change. You switching it up. This person always been like this. And now
Right.
you are saying, now you too good for us, or now you don't want to be bothered with us, or now whatever it is that they feel, because you've made the decision to separate yourself or pull yourself away from that. What do you have any recommendations or any ideas about how to navigate that type of uh, landscape?
Well, a lot of times it's, when you have those, you just got to set healthy boundaries. You may not even have to communicate it, right? You,
Yeah,
there's just what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate. Because what we have to do, we have to realize there's a safe space for us,
yeah,
right? And so when you're setting boundaries, it's really not about the other people. It's really
right,
about you protecting your peace, your health, your strength. You're protecting you, right? And so
right,
I'm not going to make it about this person, but this is what I'm going to tolerate. And if they start doing this, that, and the other, this is what I'm going to do. And so setting that healthy boundaries, whether I communicate it or not, it's not, because it's not, they may not accept it,
right, right.
and that's their choice. But I'm going to continue to love, but I love I can't really love them if I don't love
So
me.
yourself,
And
yeah,
if I'm not setting healthy boundaries for myself, I'm not really loving me.
right.
I heard this statement one time and it just rocked me to the core. And it said that
Well, come
people
on, rock my core. Let me see what that be like.
it
Let me
said
get that
that
core
people
rocking.
treat you how you view yourself.
Oh,
And I was like, wait a minute, hold up, stop it, stop the press, and I
Hmm.
didn't like it. I'm
I'm
like,
weighing
I
that.
do
I'm
not
weighing
like
that.
that,
Because
huh?
sometimes I said I'm weighing that in my mind because sometimes people treat you the way they view themselves. Sometimes it's not just the way. So I guess both things can be true. Two things can be true, right?
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
but what it forced me to do was look at how I view myself.
Mm.
And so what I will accept and what I won't accept. Because when you set those boundaries, people know, hey, don't go there
Not
with
that.
him.
You know what it is? I think you just clarified it for me. I think that people treat you the way that they see themselves, but you accepting their treatment is based on how you see yourself. How about that? I think that's what it is. I
Yeah.
think that's it.
And because
So,
they, people know, it's just like kids, they know what they can get away with, right?
yeah,
And who they can get away with it with.
yeah.
And so, like as a teacher, I was just, oof, I, I just I didn't know how to set healthy boundaries. And
Mm.
so I was always in a gray area and I wanted to blame the kids.
Oh, I wasn't doing that. I was just overextending myself all the time.
Yeah. And so it was, and so, I would try to be lenient, but it was just really me, really me. And that's where we always have to end up.
Yeah.
What can I do and to improve me? And if we're going to manage family ties, family relationships, we always have to start with us and end with us, and then say, oh, what is my motives? What am I really wanting? What am I really asking? And why am I asking this from this individual?
And can I do it for myself? And so
Can I
when I'm
do it for
asking for
myself?
somebody else, can I provide that to myself?
And am I willing to provide it to somebody else?
And that part too. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, right? Because sometimes we are willing to provide it to somebody else. You ever heard of codependency?
Hmm.
Yeah, sometimes we are willing to provide, provide it for somebody else, right? So we do all these things. We go above and beyond, and we just do the most, and we feel empty because number one, nothing that they can do unless it matches exactly what we had in our head would be the outcome based on us doing what we were doing. And we love to say, "Well, I just love to make people feel good, and I just like to make people happy," and we do. But there is definitely response and payoff that you're expecting, right? And then when you don't get that, you feel taken advantage of, and you feel unappreciated, and you feel all of those things. And then you have to realize that you need to figure out where the line is between wanting to care for someone, wanting to do things for someone, and wanting to do things for someone because there's something in you you're trying to feed.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah. So we're doing all this out of an unhealthy place. And
yeah,
then we can't really get that value that we need. And we're always searching for it. And
yeah.
because we're looking for it from outwards. Like what maybe this will be provided to me because I'm giving it to everybody else. But hey, what about you give it to yourself?
And I think part of it is that, especially people who suffer with codependency, right? There's a whole dynamic that happens that creates that type of personality, right? And that is a personality that, with work and care and self love and recognition, self recognition, can definitely be modified to be healthy. You don't have to change who you are, but you can modify how you show up because that in of itself is a form of addiction, right? But just as you are loving and caring on others, really understanding where the healthy line starts and stops, and uh, the way to know that, because some people will be like, well, I don't, how am I supposed to know that? Just ask yourself how many times you've extended yourself, overextended yourself, and you went above and beyond, and the other person was not, they didn't appreciate it in a way that you wanted them to, or you did all of that stuff and it still wasn't enough, or every time you do something, instead of the person being happy with you, they're upset because you've overextended yourself, and you kind of You're rushing over here, you're rushing over here. So there are a lot of indicators that will tell you whether or not you are helping and giving and caring in a way that's healthy, or if you're overextending yourself. If you feel spent all the time, or if you feel this urge to kind of make everything your responsibility, somebody's having a problem, oh, I'll take care of that. Or somebody's upset, oh, are you okay? Let me make you better. Somebody, doesn't have a car. Oh, well, you can borrow my car. Not everything is your responsibility. And if you're taking responsibility and you're putting yourself out there to, you're putting that cape on and you come into the
Yeah,
rescue and you're like, but I'm good to people. You are good to people, sweetie, but you're not good to you. You have to be good to yourself. So if what you're doing for everybody else leaves you feeling like nobody's doing for you, then you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing in the way of caring for yourself. When you're caring for yourself, caring for others won't tap you out. And I had
exactly.
to learn that.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
you're gonna have people that's gonna be mad that you changed that dynamic, but they're
that's
just gonna
big.
have to be mad. And if they love you, they'll adjust.
That yes, yes. And you can really see where people are because people they tend to cling to our dysfunction. And so once we start becoming functional, they don't know how to handle it, and especially family, right? Because they're
Yeah,
used to you and they've been around you and they've been exposed to the way you handle stuff. And so when you start making those adjustments, they don't know how to handle it because
yeah,
they're used to this person that you've been all your life. And so, you know, but coming into that space, you will be okay. You just have to be okay with them walking away. Guess what? Because if they really love you, they're gonna come back.
they will. And part of it also, right? And we have to be careful. And I'm running out of light. I'm so sorry. There's a lamp right here, but for some reason it's not working. I checked the plugs and I apologize. So, and we got what, about a good 15 minutes left of that, of our segment.
Yeah.
So hopefully I won't be in the dark in a minute. But what was I saying? I'm old. What did you say? I
Well,
forgot.
yeah, talking about just having our families and being. You got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, the other piece to us being on a journey of self love, self care, transformation is communicating that with people who have always, and I won't say benefited, right? Because that's not fair. Because we put ourselves out there to do all of this stuff, and then we say they're benefiting from me overextending myself. And they may have, but you overextended yourself. So I will say it is our responsibility when we are going through transformation to communicate with those we love. Hey, there's some things about how I was doing things in my life that really didn't serve me. Has nothing to do with you or how I feel about you. But I really need to do some things to take care of myself. What it was costing me in the way of emotional stress, mental wellness, just being overall well was just not good for me. And I'm making some changes, and I really hope you can support me in that.
Yes, that's huge. That's
They're
big.
cool until they realize that means there's some stuff about how you do them and do for them is going to change. But some people are like, I get it, but it is important to communicate it. And that, I think, the biggest thing that we could communicate from today's session is healthy communication, understanding what you need to communicate and how to communicate that, so that you can not only get what you need from relationships, but you can give what others need in a healthy way in relationships.
Yes. It's a big thing when we can just have those conversations, but we have to take time to sit and reflect, like, why am I doing this? Where is this coming from?
Coming from.
Why do I feel a need to help everybody else out and be that, say, captain save
Save a hoe. You
yeah.
want me to say
So
it?
why do I feel that and I take everybody else's problem? There's something in me that is not being fulfilled. And I feel that I maybe because I'm do this for others, I'll get that fulfillment. And when it doesn't happen that way, then we're upset with the world. No, take that time, look at yourself and say, why am I doing this? And I love that that question, because if you keep questioning yourself, but why?
Oh, can I tell you
But
that
why?
that is like my favorite thing to say? Not
Yes.
even to myself, but when when I have sessions with people, and they're telling me, hey, yeah, and I'm doing blah blah blah, and I say, well, why are you doing that? Oh, because I want to blah blah blah. But why do you want to do that? Well, sometimes it's like, what do you mean? Why do I want to do that? And I'm like, well, no, I want to know. And what it is I learned that when people say, well, what do you mean? Why do I want to do that? It's that they don't know the answer yet. So I asked, no, I really want to know. Do you know why you do that? I mean, it's obvious. Well, can you explain it to me? Because it's not necessarily obvious to me.
Right.
But I also do that with myself. I'm like, okay, Jatan, why are you doing this again? Huh.
Yes. Why do you?
Okay.
Why? I remember having a conversation with myself. I was upset with my ex-wife, and I was in the shower, and I was like, okay, so why did you get upset? Well, she did. She said such and such, such. So why did that make you upset?
Right.
And it boiled down to, had to ask myself, do you think you're always right?
Mm.
Do you think you have all the right answers? So don't get frustrated with other people when they don't accept the answer that you have. And I had a problem with that,
Yeah.
and especially in those close relationships.
Huh. Yeah. That is huge. That is huge. Like
So
to
yeah,
just be like, I find that when I'm mad at my husband, I ask, I'll give you an example. These puppies, can I just tell you it ain't easy? I'm just going to tell you that. Right. And I could tell that he was tense. And initially, I got tense, like, well, why are you walking around with attitude? I didn't say it, but in my head, that's what I was thinking. But in my, then I was like, I'm just looking at him, and I started to say, what's wrong with you? And I was like, okay, Jatan, what's wrong with you? Because he hasn't said a word to you. You don't know why he's tense. It may not have anything to do with you. It may not have anything to do with the puppies. It may not have anything to do with anything that you're thinking in your head. And already in here, I was feeling annoyed.
hmm
Why? Right? So I was like, uh, he's not the enemy. That's one of the biggest things that I when I get annoyed or I get upset, I say to myself, Jatan, he's not the enemy. Whatever is
yes,
causing the breakdown or the friction is the enemy. We need to band together. So I
yes,
need to figure out how to talk to him about what I'm feeling and be open to asking him what he's feeling so that I can communicate to him in a way that lets him know that I'm waving my white flag. I am not the enemy. So I was like, babe, you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm just tired. I didn't sleep well last night. And I was like, oh, um, why didn't you sleep well last night? And he turned around and looked at me like, because mama dog wants to bring the babies out of the um, whelping pen. She wants to put them in the bed. So she's taking them out. Puppies are whining because she's carrying them around. I gotta go get out the bed, go take them back, put them back in or whatever. So I said to him, I said, the puppies kind of detracted from your sleep, huh? And he was like, yeah. I mean, I know they can't help it, but I guess, on edge because I didn't have enough rest. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to the twins' house. And this way you can kind of decompress, get a little time to yourself. You know, most people would be like, I ain't finna leave my house because but it wasn't me leaving my house. It was allowing my husband space to decompress. Now, what I didn't mention is that my husband has ADHD diagnosed, and that's a whole nother show. We will definitely talk about the spicy population. A lot of us don't know what ADHD is. We don't know everything that's involved. And the one thing that he did when we started dating, he was like, I have ADHD. He told me that was one of the first things he told me. And he said, you may want to do some research so that you understand what it is you're signing up for, because people think it's, oh, well, I'm all over the place and I'm this and I'm that. But there's a lot that goes into that. There's some people who have light sensitivity, sound sensitivity. the executive functioning is what is impaired. So impulsivity, there's a lot that goes with that. Me
Uh-huh.
doing the research, because I listen to him, because I'm like, okay, if the brother's telling me I might want to research before I decide, I'm gonna research before I decide. So
Exactly.
I understand what was where he would be or could be overwhelmed. For me, the healthy thing to do was go, okay, well, I'm gonna go back to the twins' house, because that was the original plan, was I was gonna go somewhere else to help whelp the puppies, because we live in a small condo.
Right.
And I was gone a day, and he was like, can you just come back home? I don't like this. I went back home, and it was like, yeah, the decision to move the puppies to a bigger location was a better idea. So we reverted back to the original plan. And a lot of people won't do that. But our thing was, can we get to a solution that works for both of us? And we did. So my point is that sometimes what you think in your head is the solution will sometimes require you to do something that you don't really think you should have to do.
Right. Right.
You know?
But when you love who you are, you love yourself, and then you
Yes.
love the person that you're with in your family, then you're able to make those adjustments, and it's not a big deal. It may
Right.
it may cause some unease, right? But because of the love, that love covers that all. Like, I'll do this
Yeah.
for her. I'll do this for him because, you know,
Right.
I
Mhm.
care that much. I
But I
care
did
that
it for us.
right.
There's the
And
kicker.
for us, and yeah, collectively.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because it took the pressure off of me to feel like I gotta tend to the dogs in a way that will kind of quiet them down, and this way he can get some sleep, and he's not feeling like I can't sleep. And not to mention that the medication that a lot of people take for ADHD, it will cause them to not be able to sleep because you're up, right? So when he has taken the medication and it's wearing off and he needs to rest, it's different than just being sleep deprived. Just imagine being on like caffeine that has kept you up for 24 hours, and now's your time to go to sleep, and they're doing construction outside your house and you can't sleep. Sleep depravity is a thing that
It is.
is
It
a
is.
beast in and of itself. So my
It is.
point is that it doesn't matter what family ties you're talking about. The message that Twan and I are trying to communicate is that you need to go into self first. You need to examine yourself first. Go into the mirror first, then look out the window. But don't look out the window in a way that allows you to go, see, yeah, I check myself and I'm doing everything right. And let me just go on and dig into you. Look out the window and say, how can I help? What can I do? How can I do the one thing that I can do, which is control myself? What can I adjust, which is the one thing that I have 100% adjustment control over, which is myself and my thought process and
Yes.
my actions to change this situation, to change this dynamic. And it's not going to be like, you got the solution and bam, this,
Right.
everything, you're just fixing it. You got this magic
It's a
wand.
practice.
Yes.
You put it into
Sometimes you're not
practice.
going to get the response that you want,
Yes.
but you keep doing it. And how you begin to think about situations and people and things
It
for a
gets better.
resolution will
It gets
change.
easier.
Yeah, definitely well, yeah, I guess you could say easier. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, it is. But when you start practicing, taking that time out to think, okay, what is it that I really want? What is it, and why am I really asking this of this person?
Yeah.
Why am I really expecting this of this person? Am I willing to? So you start asking yourself the right questions. You start asking less of others, right?
That oh, and let me add one more thing. What about asking, why am I not willing to do this for this person? What about when your mama, your brother, your spouse, your kids, somebody's asking you to do something and you're just like, no,
Mm.
or to change something and you're just like, why? You love me the way I am. You're supposed to love 100%. Oh God, we're gonna do a show on that. We are definitely gonna do a show on you should love me how I am. Because how are you though? Okay, we just gonna put a tech in that. We're gonna come back to that. But yeah, a lot of people feel like you should just love them the way you should love me for how I am. I shouldn't have to change for nobody. If you're only
Right.
for yourself, you're gonna be by yourself. My mama used to say that all the time. But my point is sometimes it's not just us asking things of others. Sometimes it's our unwillingness to provide things for others. And I could use that example with my husband. You know, he needed quiet. He needed less energy. He needed less light. He needed less sound. I could have been like, I'm not finna leave my house because you can't get some sleep. You better close the door, put some earphones on. I could have been on some, you make an adjustment to get what you need.
Right.
But I was like, I know how to fix this. This is a very easy fix.
Yeah. That's
Very
good.
easy.
That's good. Well, we
Right?
are at
We're at the top of the hour.
we are at our time, and it's been a blessing.
Same.
Hopefully, our viewers will like what they heard today. Give us a thumbs up, right? And
Share it.
like, subscribe, share,
Yes.
all the above. Follow us on our social media. Please, I'm driving people to Adruilux.com to subscribe and just check out what we got going on. And it's just, healing and health. I love the characters that you have made for them, and it's just a blessing. And so, yes, follow us, like us, share this, because this information really needs to get out.
Absolutely. And we definitely want feedback. We
Yes,
want questions. We want suggestions. Anything that you want to talk about or want us to talk about or have questions about, we would love to do that. And I'm just going to say this. You can follow Healing Help at healing_help on Instagram. But if you go to our website, and it is just healing.help, there's no .com, healing.help. If you go down to the bottom where it says socials, you'll see where we're at all over the place. Facebook, Instagram, Discord, we're everywhere. So we would love, love, love to have you engage with us. Give us some topics. Give us some stuff to talk about.
for
Call
sure.
us. Join us. We would love it.
Yes, yes. Well, we want to sign off. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the top.
Definitely. Have a great night. Take care.